Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, sponsored by Circa Million and Circa Survivor Contest. I am Jim Coventry, along with James Koh. Now, we will be doing a weekly show about fantasy football busts, but like I'm saying, James Koh and we have the sleeper king in the house, and I have to make sure that we get us some sleepers covered because this is what James Koh does better than anyone. James Koh, but when we talk about the bus later, we are specifically today, we're going to talk about a couple of these players that are coming off of injuries because, look, these injuries, we never know what we're going to get coming back, so we're going to talk about a couple of those, so get ready for that. In the meantime, we have a mock draft simulator at RotoWire that we are very excited about. We relaunched the whole site, and this is going to be a tool that you're going to want to see. So we're going to go through a few rounds of a mock draft. We'll also do some player analysis as we do that. And James, if anybody, when you love this tool and you want access to it, you get your 15% off a RotoWire subscription by going to rotowire.com. You pick your favorite subscription and you use the code YouTube15 at checkout, and you will be in on this great tool. And here we go right now. So we are doing a test team, and we are going to start a mock draft. All right, let's see what we got here. We're going to select the league. We'll make it a test team. We'll do a snake draft. We'll do 12 teams. And we will go full PPR.
This tool is awesome, man. I love it.
I know. And we get to customize everything. And you can even customize your very own draft plan on this. And as we get into the weeks, we're going to help you with that as well. And you're customizing here. So for our draft, this was actually, you know what? This was a league that we actually had rolling elsewhere with, fine enough. But let's see if we could put ourselves down to maybe team 11. Okay, let's draft let's see what that does. Hopefully that does that for us. Let's take a look here. And all right, let's see what we get here if we go. All right. And again, you can do the RotoWire perfect draft plan A. So we're going to use RotoWire's draft plan A. They create one for us, and we're going to utilize that, and it's going to generate this up for us. And as we see, yes, we're picking at number 11, James Koh. As we go through, just to get the feel for the board here, we'll see that Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson were at 1-2. Then we had a run on receiver, CD, Chase. Chase has been going late in these. We'll see. It's just a randomization, I guess. Jefferson, St. Brown, Puka, Neighbors. Then Gibbs and Genty fell kind of late. So at pick 11, we have at receiver, we got Brian Thomas and Nico Collins. At running back, we got the big dog, Derrick Henry, Devon Achane. I know you like yourself some early wide receiver builds. Drake London's in the mix as well. So I know you're going receiver here. So do you like Collins? Do you like London, or do you like Brian Thomas Jr.?
I am so torn on this. I feel as if Nico Collins is the right call. I'm actually surprised that BTJ is getting mocked this high. Because again, there's a little bit more competition for targets. I know Liam Cohen is there, so I'm really excited about that Liam Cohen, and BTJ and Trevor Lawrence connection. But again, there's a little bit more competition there, right? With Travis Hunter.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Nico Collins, I love the fact that they added a bunch of secondary satellite players in Houston, but it doesn't matter. Nico Collins is the man. He is the big dog there in Houston. I feel like he's going to be, targets 1A and 1B for Houston. So I feel most confident with Nico Collins. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So here's the thing. If we bet on these receivers, we're betting on their quarterback as well. True. Trevor Lawrence, people have always wanted to make him this generational talent. Well, guess what? He's not. Right. He has a good half season on his resume. He's a poor decision maker. When a play goes south, he either takes a sack or he bails out and goes in another direction with it. 5.7 targets per game for Brian Thomas with Trevor Lawrence. When Mac Jones came in, again, career backup, not a good quarterback. But every game Mac Jones played with Brian Thomas, it was 10 to 14 targets because there was one thing Mac Jones did that Trevor Lawrence couldn't. When the pressure came, Mac Jones stayed in as long as he could, and he just I'm throwing it to him.
Yeah,
I don't think Trevor,
baby.
Right? I don't think Trevor Lawrence has this in his skill set, James. I don't think he can deal with the pressure, and it's going to come. Nico Collins, on the other hand, misses time. He has 7 missed games, 5 missed games, 4 and 3 misses time. But he has CJ Stroud. And I call him the too high safety buster, James, because Nico Collins, he runs between the linebackers and the safeties, goes between them. And CJ Stroud rips the ball between them. And Collins is that big and fast dude that shreds the seams that are left. He is a force of nature. So you know what? The injury history is there. I prefer Collins. Any final words on this one?
Well, I mean, talking through it, and then you look at the board here. I'm not. I know most people will be most interested in Derrick Henry. He's the name. He put up a huge season last year. I think Devin Achane is also an interesting name right here. But again, I really just truly, honestly believe that 0 RB is the correct call. Draft strategy this year. So I don't know. We'll see. I like Collins. And I'm going to hope that he can stay healthy, man. Those hamstrings got to stay healthy. Come on now.
Oh my goodness.
Nico, come on. Let's go.
Oh my goodness. Do they ever? Now, James, one more thing I want to mention. When you mentioned Devon Achane, look, we love Achane, but in the 4 games that Tua didn't play, 7.7 PPR points per game for Achane because the defense had crowded even further. And there was nowhere for him to go. And those quarterbacks, look, Zach Wilson's there. It's not getting any better. So, right? So you're, in this case, specifically, you're betting on Tua to stay healthy? Well, another concussion last year, a hip injury, can't do it. So all that said, we went with Nico Collins.
Man,
and then
I tell you what, though, picking from that 11 spot is pretty, like, as you guys can tell, it's pretty tough because we had to walk through a little bit of mental gymnastics there to get to Nico Collins. You know what I mean?
Yes. Now, when we make this next pick, I'm going to point this out, what RotoWire offers you on these columns. So, James, first of all, I'm going to go over it at the first available players. You could think about that. Then I'm going to go through some of the features on the RotoWire tool here. We still have Brian Thomas. We have A.J. Brown. We have Drake London. We have Derrick Henry. We have Josh Jacobs. We have Christian McCaffrey there still, for what that's worth. So that I want you to think about that for a minute. In the meantime, if you look at just the RotoWire notes, you'll see on the mock draft tool, Derrick Henry. It tells you number 1 running back left on the board. He's the last running back in his specific tier. Consistency, high consistency rating. Injury risk is relatively low, and I'll vouch for that. 2021, he broke his foot. He hasn't missed significant time any other time. Good quarterback throwing to him. Well, I don't know about he doesn't get the ball too much through the air, so maybe that one's a little bit off. Good year last year, to say the least, and a good offensive line. So it points out some factors for you to look at. It points out his age is 31, and we know that's usually dangerous. But Derrick Henry has shown no signs of slowing down. I fear for the defense more than I fear for him. James, where are you at on this draft pick? We already have Nico Collins in the pocket.
If I'm going pure upside, I'm going BTJ. If I'm going right down the middle, I think Derrick Henry's the call. And again, I don't think I wouldn't feel too bad with either one. I know I am worried about Derrick Henry because, again, curse of 370. He was over 380 total touches last year. But, again, as you mentioned, he's an alien. And I think on a per-game basis, I think Derrick Henry will be fine too. Look, here's the thing. Even if Derrick Henry is a little bit less efficient, even if Derrick Henry misses 4 games, I almost don't care, mostly because it's a situation where can I get 10 healthy games of Derrick Henry? And if in those 10 games, is he going to average 20 PPR points per game? Then I'm okay with it. You know what I'm saying? That's where I feel like, all right, well, what are we really talking about here? We're not playing rotisserie style. We're playing head-to-head, right? And those are the players that you need to go get to win your head-to-head matchup. So I'm actually going to go against the grain here, or against my own grain, and I might go Derrick Henry because I think we're getting pretty good value with him with the 2.2.
So I want to point one last thing about Derrick Henry that I just love. And there were 2 iterations of the Ravens rushing attack they changed this year. James, in week 1, if you remember, they played the Chiefs, and Isaiah Likely had that game. He actually missed a touchdown at the end. He was well over 100 yards. It would have been the game of all games. And everybody's all excited about Isaiah Likely. and I'm the Grinch the next day on XM, and I'm saying, I go, if the Ravens keep using Isaiah Likely, their season is over. And people thought I was nuts. I said, because they have Derrick Henry, and they just basically relegated him. And I said, they need Patrick Ricard on the field, not, Isaiah Likely. Well, week 3, I guarantee you, I don't know this happened. John Harbaugh must have gotten Todd Monken's face, because all of a sudden we started seeing Patrick Ricard on the field, and then the running game took off. Then the second iteration, though, this was a week 11 or 12, James, and what they figured out was they moved Lamar Jackson into shotgun, and they put Derrick Henry right at his hip in the pistol formation.
Yeah.
And from that point on, if defenses ran at Henry, Lamar tucked the ball and did his little thing, running for a ton of yardage. If they rushed Lamar, then Henry took the ball, and Henry averaged from that point on 143 yards and 1.2 touchdowns. And I believe that's exactly the offense we'll see this year. James, I do not think a defense can stop that. It's pick your poison, and it's the lose-lose scenario. Any final word before we get to our next pick?
No, I think these are all great points that you make. And again, I'm torn on it, because I do think from a season-long perspective, he will see a drop-off, but we're not playing rotisserie style. And again, I want to emphasize that, it's like a lot of these projections that, that fantasy analysts are making, myself included. I have Derrick Henry with a much lower season totals than he did last year, much lower. I have him missing 3 games, but it almost kind of sort of, again, is negated by the fact that if this guy is going out there giving you 20 to 30 PPR points in the games that he plays, how do you pass that up, man? So it's, and again, you're still getting, it's not like you're investing a top 5 pick in him, Jim. We got him in the 2.2, which I think is pretty good value.
So now we're picking 3-11 and 4-2. And at this point, we already know the roster. I will take a quick look back here, and we will see we have Derrick Henry and Nico Collins. We have 1 running back, 1 receiver. And now we go back to where we were. And of course, good luck me finding my spot here where we were at. The board. Here we go. Oh my gosh, James. And an old man here's got to figure out exactly where I left off here. Okay. So back to simulator. Oh, this is an interesting one. So I got to find my spot. Okay, here we go. Yay! The top button. Imagine that. Hit the top button and good things happen. Oh, my goodness. James, so we have receiver-wise, we have Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, who we took in our last draft. And then running back-wise, we have Breece Hall. We have Chuba Hubbard, Joe Mixon. There are players beyond that. Tight end, George Kittle. It tells on the bottom, best by position. If you see the RotoWire tool at the bottom, the best quarterback is Hurts, and the best tight end is Kittle. Where would you like to go with this pick?
If this was a real draft, I would have been so frustrated by the fact that Garrett Wilson went 2 picks before me here. I would have been, I'm like, come on, man, go give me Garrett Wilson. Okay, now that being said, in our previous episode, I was torn between Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and we ended up going with Breece Hall. And so now here he is again at the end of the 3rd round. This is really, it's so hard to get away from Breece Hall right here. He's in the prime of his career. And all those points you made about a mobile quarterback working with a great explosive running back, does that not still apply to Breece Hall? Now, and I get it. Justin Fields is not Lamar. I understand. And Breece Hall is not Derrick Henry. I understand. But the principles still remain, do they not? So I do wonder if Breece Hall sees a few more runways this season as defenses are going to have to, deal with Justin Fields and his rushing ability.
I say this all the time, James. When you have an uber mobile quarterback and the team is weaponizing him, the linebackers play on their heels, not their toes, because they don't know whether they're getting the running back, they're getting the quarterback, or they're getting the pass option. These are things that give defenses fits. And I tell you one thing, James, you mentioned Lamar Jackson in the same breath with Justin Fields. Justin Fields has done one thing Lamar Jackson hasn't. Rushed for 1,143 yards in 15 games. You talk about a level of runner that, like I said, look, Lamar is Lamar, and I'm not making a comparison here, but I'm saying as a runner, Justin Fields can be dangerous. So I love it. Breece Hall is a player who is falling this far in a lot of drafts, late 3rd, mid 3rd. And I'm like you, I'm getting shares because I can't pass it. He was my first or second running back off the board last year. I don't see any reason now that we knew it was an MCL injury to think differently. This is just one of those values that I don't think we can pass, James. So we'll click the button there. And now we will take our fourth pick. We have two running backs. We have Derrick Henry and Breece Hall. That's a great start. And we have Nico Collins. And now we have Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Sutton, and DJ Moore. And looking at the bottom, best quarterback on the board per RotoWire, Jalen Hurts. Best running back, Mixon. We don't need a running back here. Best receiver, Devontae Adams. Best tight end, George Kittle. Where do you stand on this pick, James Koh?
I would, again, almost want to go Devontae Adams here. I could also be listen, there's a clear drop off in wide receiver quality after you get past Devontae and DK. There's a clear tier drop in my opinion between Devontae, DK, and then Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Devontae Smith. And listen, I love Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is awesome, but the bottom line is he's the number 2 in that Philadelphia passing offense, a passing offense that doesn't throw the ball that much. Okay. So,
right.
Give me I think Devontae Adams is the call here because again, you're drafting a player in a really healthy ecosystem. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford. Yes, he is the number 2, but actually, Jim, let me ask you straight up. Is he really the number 2 though? I mean, we love Puka. Puka's in the prime. Puka's awesome. Puka's an absolute baller stud. But when Devontae Adams enters the room, is he the clear number 2 or is he more of like a 1B?
Well, this is interesting, James, because Puka's not a red zone guy. He gets a little bit of red zone work, but he is not a great red zone receiver. Whereas Devontae Adams, are there many better? Because when you go back shoulder with him, it's automatic. If you run him over the middle, automatic. Is a different type of player.
Is this going to be the greatest show on turf part 2, 2.0? Greatest show on turf? Let's go.
Right, because what are we getting out of McVay? He clearly wanted Adams. Adams is not a blocker. Cooper Kupp blocked his behind off, and that's why I think he flamed out as early as he did. Nakua's going to keep blocking his tail off because he's so good at it. So when you mention who really is the number 1, well, if Adams isn't going to be blocking and Nakua is, maybe it's closer than everybody thinks because everybody thinks it's going to be an automatic. And maybe Nakua, I'm not going to fight you and say Nakua is not the number 1.
Right.
But you raise an excellent question that why would they not throw a little more? Or why waste targets to Tutu Atwell or Tyler Higbee when you could just go to these 2,
exactly.
right?
Right. Exactly. I'm really excited about this Rams offense. And again, it all comes down to Matt Stafford's got to stay healthy, man. And that's really what we're looking at.
All right, we're going to do one more turn pick here, and then we are going to move on to our busts and our sleepers. So at this point on our roster, and I'll remember what to click this time. Oh, my gosh, don't get old. That is the lesson of the day. Of course, you can't control that now, can you? We have Derrick Henry and Breece Hall at running back. We have Nico Collins and Devontae Adams at receiver. And James,
I like this team.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
I like this team.
Yes.
What's going on here? I like it.
Yes, looking at the bottom of the RotoWire screen here, best by position, Patrick Mahomes, Travion Henderson at running back, Travis Hunter at receiver, Travis Kelce at tight end. We'll look at some of the other picks by position. Running back, David Montgomery is in that mix. Obviously, he's been super productive in Detroit. Again, we're not touching Quinshon Judkins.
Exactly.
No need to have a big discussion on that right now. Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard at receiver, Hunter, Tet McMillan, Jordan Addison, who, again, depending when you're watching this, so it could be at any different time. We're not going to speak to that because as of the recording, which is very early, we may not know what the discipline is. Calvin Ridley and Juwan Jennings. First of all, which position? We're going to have 2 picks here in a matter of 4 picks. But So what 2 positions would you like to get on these 2? Is it the same position for both or something different? We have 2 and 2 so far, 2 running backs, 2 receivers.
I mean, that's the thing, right? We could go any direction we want here, which is great. We could go running back, wide receiver. We can go 2 wide receivers here too, because of the flex position. I don't know when you're looking at this board. I don't know how you get away from Travis Hunter. I think he's just the best player on the board. Again, I've got some real trepidation with Travion Henderson. I think Tet McMillan is a really good player. Honestly, guys, I would be surprised I just don't think he's a dominant target getter. And in Carolina, I've still not sold on the quarterback position. And I tell you what, I don't know if Carolina sold on the quarterback position either. I think they're going to try to go as run heavy as possible. But by the way, it's not as if Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette can't play. Like, these boys can play too, So I don't think Ted McMillan is this dominant ball getter. Meanwhile, Travis Hunter playing with Liam Cohen, sign me up. I mean, in my opinion, I think he's the clear number 2. And they don't have a lot of pass catching options behind those two guys. I think they'll be pillars in the offense. I really like Travis Hunter with this pick.
Now, I'm going to point out 2 more things before you click draft on this. If you notice under Travis Hunter's name, the third line says same buy as Devontae Adams.
What a great note.
Yes, we're not worried about that right now, but this is a very important feature of this mock draft tool, because let's say you had 2 players on buy. Well, this will tell you same buy as Adams. And for example, it's not Nico Collins, but it could be Nico Collins. And then you would know at that point, well, I don't want 3 players with the same buy. And if you don't, then that would change. So this is a very valuable tool. And a couple other points, we already went over the best available, but we also have features of highest upside by position, safest players by positions. So this is important, again, that help you navigate your draft. But we are taking Travis Hunter. We're doing our last pick of this simulated mock before we get to some busts and some sleepers, James. So at this point, we have 3 receivers and we have 2 running backs. So we have Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, and Travis Hunter. And now I'll go back to the For You screen. What position would you like to approach here?
I really want to go wide receiver. I want to see what wide receivers are available. So if we click on that, suggested for you wide receivers. Okay. Now we're talking about guys that have some flaws, but interesting upside. Jim, am I crazy to think that Jalen Waddle has some untapped potential here? Because what happens if Miami's like, you know what, man, forget it. Let's trade. Let's go ahead and trade Tyreek Hill. And let's get some draft capital back for an aging wide receiver that I think is still very much a sought-after commodity in the NFL. Man, Jalen Waddle becomes a super interesting player at that point. Now, obviously, we are like 7 steps away from that happening, but dang. If Jalen Waddle could be the featured player in Miami, oh my goodness gracious, we're really going to be cooking with some gas here. I'm okay with Jalen Waddle here. Jawan Jennings is an interesting call. Chris Godwin is in there too. But man, can I also say, if I'm just going straight upside, I don't hate Rome Odunze here as a second-year potential breakout with Caleb Williams. And by the way, Ben Johnson. Come on, goodness. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams developing in a second season. I almost want to say, you know what? Screw it. We're at the turn. Go get your guy. And for me, one of my guys is going to be Rome Odunze. I might have to go. And this is a big, by the way, this is a big-time reach. This is a reach pick. There's no question. I'm just not confident that Odunze will come back to me when we're talking about, 20, 25 picks coming off the board.
Now, I'm going to point out, we'll take Odunze. I'm going to point out a couple of things with the RotoWire tool here. It points out under Odunze as an easy full season schedule. I think that is a nice feature, but I said earlier this would likely happen, and it did. Under Jacoby Myers, same bye week as 2 other players. So this is another feature of the tool that it's very important to be aware of. It's very cognizant of the bye weeks, which really helps. And before we take Odunze, I want to make one comment for everybody. Actually, 2. The Jalen Waddle comment. Devon Achane caught 78 passes last year. That's not going up. That is as high end as it gets. Jonnu Smith was targeted 111 times, and they have not replaced him. So Jalen Waddle, about top of my head, 83 targets in like 15 games. That was way below his career norms. You would have to expect those 111 vacated targets from Jonnu Smith are going to wide receivers because we saw, as good as Jonnu Smith was for fantasy and as good as Devon Achane was for fantasy as a pass catcher, they weren't winning games. they've got to get their wide receivers involved. So Waddle is also an upside play because those targets are going to be there, and he's already been a productive player. Last thing I'll say is this. Calvin Ridley, if you want a floor play, think about him, and I'm going to tell you why. Calvin Ridley, 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, very quiet. He had the one in Jacksonville with a lot of, again, bad Trevor Lawrence erratic play. Last year, 1,000 yards with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. Now that offensive line, they brought in Zeitler at guard. They brought in Dan Moore, who's an adequate tackle. They're 2 young guys they drafted are growing up. They have Cam Ward. Calvin Ridley quietly is going to be, if you have a volatile roster and you need this middle round pick to have some safety, we are taking Rome Odunze. But James, can you just make a point on Ridley?
No, I agree with you. And again, by the way, if you guys are new to what I do, okay, I'm out there I love risky picks. Okay, that's just what I do. Okay, but no, you're right, Jim. You're 100% correct. Like Ridley is 100%, no question, the number 1 target getter there in Tennessee. There's not even a question in my mind about that. What does the rookie quarterback give you? He's going to be a clear upgrade from whatever they had last year in Will Levis. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think he's a very safe call in those middle rounds. And again, by the way, you're actually getting decent value with Calvin Ridley in the 6th round. That's not bad at all. You know what I'm saying? So Calvin Ridley's going to get some work. I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks, does he get to 1,100 yards? Yeah, I think that's very much within the realm of possibility for Calvin Ridley, and that's a player that you're getting in the 6th. Man, come on, man. That's, again, a really, really nice conservative play, but that you're still getting good value.
Index of Suspicion points out, Ridley is sleeping right now. Yes, I know. That's the problem. People are going to hate us, James, because we're getting some players out there. We're going to be bouncing some ADPs up, and some people are going to get really upset because I don't have my value anymore. And I get it. But you know what? This is what we do for work. This is our public service. We have to do it. So sorry, but it's just a service we offer. All right, closing this out, our roster through 6 rounds. Derrick Henry and Breece Hall at running back, very impressive. 4 receiver group of Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Travis Hunter, and Rome Odunze. Last quick word on our roster of through 6 picks.
Again, I think this is a really interesting mix. It's such a great balanced team because we've got 2 good running backs. We've got veterans in Nico and obviously Devontae Adams. But, man, there's a lot of upside here, too, with Travis Hunter and Rome Odunze. I just feel like, again, this is the kind of roster that I like to build. A decent amount of floor, but man, we're still chasing some upside, especially with our last 2 picks here with Travis Hunter and Rome Odunze.
And I often say, James, those picks that are in that range, those 5th through 9th rounds, that's when you really want to start getting the upside plays, and you certainly captured that extremely well. Okay, everybody, remember, if you want access to this tool and everything else at RotoWire, we just revamped our site, all the insight, all the analysis, the tools you need, mock draft tools you saw, rotowire.com. YouTube 15 to check out for 15% off any subscription. All right, James, we are ready to go forward now. We are going to talk about some busts that we're going to talk about at this moment. I'm going to start out with Tyreek Hill. These are players coming off of injury. We're going to talk about a couple of them. Tyreek Hill, and you mentioned a little bit about him when we talk about Jalen Waddle. But here's the thing. Yes, it was a terrible season for him. 959 yards for Tyreek Hill. That's terrible. He had a serious wrist injury, and that definitely had an impact. But James, that 38th percentile yards after the catch, that wasn't his wrist.
No, you're right.
Go ahead.
And it's just, to me, it's whether, look, wrist injury aside, was he mentally engaged with this team? And I think that is very clearly a no. By the end of the season, I think he's pretty much checked out. He's talking about he wants to get traded at the end of the season. And he's an emotional player, is Tyreek Hill. And I'll also say this about Tyreek. I've had the opportunity to interview him a couple of different times here. And he is a player that not only is emotional, but also he puts things out into the universe and he wills it into existence. If Tyreek Hill wants to move on from the Miami Dolphins, he will move on from the Miami Dolphins. He will somehow, some way force his way out. And by the way, this is still a player that I think is going to be highly sought after should he become available to a lot of different teams. And how fun would it be? How crazy would it be if Tyreek Hill ends up back with Kansas City? You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be a lot of fun. So again, I'm really interested. I don't know what ends up happening with Tyreek. If Miami digs their heels in and says, man, you're going to play here, then I think his season's pretty much toast. But again, because again, I just don't think he'll be mentally engaged. That's my biggest problem with Tyreek Hill in the current state of things in South Beach.
And that's exactly where I stand on it, James, as well. I don't, as you said, mentally engaged. That is going to be an issue. And you're paying wide receiver 15 costs. Now, on his name, that's a value. But if it's going to be a lost season, it's not worth it at that cost. And here's the other thing. Tua Tagovailoa. I know he does a lot of things well, but defenses in the league have largely figured him out.
Yeah.
They know he can't drive it to the perimeter. They know he's not a great downfield passer. So everything gets packed up in the middle. And that's another reason why Tyreek Hill, his yards after the catch were a bit down. He may have lost a tiny bit, but again, there were so many bodies there. And that's going to be a problem that we're going to have to deal with. So, yeah, the big caution flags. All right, if there's something you wish your fantasy league had or features that are missing from your current leagues, bonus scoring, custom schedules or playoffs, deeper team settings, look no further. We got you covered with our friends at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Fantrax even offers college football fantasy leagues. Create or join a fantasy football commissioner league, invite your friends, and dominate this draft season. Fantrax is the top dynasty fantasy football platform in the industry. And Fantrax running a special promotion you don't want to miss. Sign up for free at fantrax.com/RotoWire today for your chance to enter and win a signed Jamar Chase jersey. Either create a new league or bring over your existing leagues for more chances to win. Again, go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. All right, my next bust is one Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. He ended the year with a knee injury that put him out for the NFL playoffs. And side note, all these people that are saying Isaiah Likely was almost equal with Mark Andrews in targets in the playoffs, yes, because Zay Flowers was out. But anyway, another point for another day. Zay Flowers, first half of the season was great. He put up 18 and a half or more PPR points 5 times in 9 games on his way to a 1,000-yard season. James, I talked on a recent show about how the running game completely got revamped in about week 11. Well, when that running game got clicking with Henry and Lamar Jackson, guess what happened to Zay Flowers? One game, James. Week 10 on one game with 12 PPR points. Every other game was below 10 PPR. That you can't have that. That 85th percentile after the catch. Beautiful. There were no targets to go around. They were running so successfully. Flowers is sharing with Mark Andrews, sharing with Rashad Bateman, and it's no shade on Flowers. Well, Flowers need shade and rain to grow. I get it, but not this Zay Flowers. He needs targets. And he's not getting them. That was terrible, right, James?
I love it, man. Come on. Give me more of that. I need more of that. I love it. No, hey, listen, there's so much validity to what you're saying. And really what it comes down to, it's not the player, it's the volume. Hey, yo, fantasy football is volume, baby. Like, I get it. I understand. That being said, Jim, talk to me about the Ravens defense. I'm a little bit, and listen, Harbaugh's a freaking mastermind at the defensive side of the football, so I can't imagine they're ever going to be a bad defense. But that being said, we're not that far away from Baltimore secondary being pretty bad. You know, they took some serious strides forward last year. There's no question. But I do wonder if they take a step back, can they run the ball as much as they did last year? And again, they're playing in a division now that obviously the Bengals are going to run it up. And by the way, the Bengals, man, oh my gosh, they love playing the Ravens. Jamar Chase goes crazy when he plays the Ravens. Crazy. But Aaron Rodgers is in that division now. Maybe they see a little bit more up and maybe they go a little bit more up and down. And again, I'll lean on you for this one because I'm not 100% sure where Baltimore's defense is. But I do think that there might be some question marks there.
The front seven did not have a lot of turnover. The front set, Roquan Smith was the down year for him. He was not moving like usual. You have to think he was hurt. He's too young to drop off, but maybe not. The secondary, though, James, Nate Wiggins is a rookie, some learning curve. Very physical corner. They can definitely make use of him. And then Marlon Humphrey's going to play full-time slot now because they're going to take that hybrid approach of the oft-injured Jair Alexander and Chidobe Awuzie. Right. So those are two good veterans. So if one of them is on the field at a time, they're going to kind of be covered. And then they got lucky because remember our Darius Washington, their safety, he had a season-ending injury. Well, they just had happened to spend a first-round pick just prior on Malachi Starks. So that allows Kyle Hamilton to be that movable chess piece. Right. And he really is. So overall, I am bullish on the defense. Injuries are always a question, right, James? But if they're healthy.
Especially with Baltimore.
Yes, right? Because they've had their questions with that. So I do think they're going to be in position to be able to hold down defensively. They always have a tough schedule. There's that. But they want to control the game. And maybe they want to keep these defenders fresh. It's a good question. Hey, we've still got more. We're going to shift to sleepers with the Sleeper King after we take a short break. All right, Jordan Mason. Now, Jordan Mason was traded for in the offseason. We know the offensive line was addressed in Minnesota. They got center Ryan Kelly. They got guard Will Fries. First-round draft pick Brandon Jackson, maybe? Is the first-round pick. I can't think of his name. And then they have Aaron Jones. Tell us about Jordan Mason, Sleeper King, because we want to hear.
Well, the bottom line is they made some serious upgrades on the offensive line, which I love, right? They've got an offensive-minded head coach who loves outside zone. Okay, so we're talking about Jordan Mason, who last year in outside zone playing under Shanahan was awesome, right? This is a guy that averaged 5.0 yards per carry on zone runs that went to the outside last year. This is a situation where, look, I love Aaron Jones. He's one of my favorite all-time players. There's no question. I love this kid.
Same.
But that being said, he played a career-high 17 games and had a career-high 322 touches last year. He's 30 years old, coming off of a season where he saw a career-high in games and touches. Okay. And by the way, in the year prior, the reason that Green Bay didn't bring him back is because they said, you know what, maybe there's a little bit of wear and tear here. He just played 11 games in 2023. I go back to what we had talked about in our previous episode, which was what? Running backs saw unbelievable health last year. Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, all these dudes are piling up touches and no one's getting hurt. That's generally not the case in the NFL. I hope Aaron Jones stays healthy, man. Again, I'm not rooting for injuries. You got to play with it though. You know what I mean? And if Jordan Mason is that guy, the Vikings and Niners, they run pretty similar run schemes. Jordan Mason, again, they brought him in. They gave him a 2-year contract with $10 million. Like, he's very much clearly a player that the Vikings targeted. They wanted him. They brought him in, and I think they're going to give him some opportunities. By the way, when Minnesota brought in Aaron Jones, they even said he was not going to be the workhorse back. It just happened to be that, man, the depth chart behind him was straight Dukes. Straight Dukes, Jim. They brought in the husk of Cam Akers That's how desperate they were to get a backup running back, man. Jordan Mason's going to be that dude. He's in the prime of his career, man. I really like Jordan Mason, especially at cost right now.
Running back 35 in average drafts. That's the borderline end in 12-team leagues of running back threes. Definitely want to make that investment. All right, you're going to have to do some selling here, Sleeper King. I am just going to give the floor to you and say, Kyle Pitts, tight end 18. James Koh, this one's all yours.
Okay, listen. Okay. When I say that I'm the Sleeper King, these next 3 guys, these are all guys that are like not even getting drafted. Okay. Kyle Pitts right now, according to RotoWire ADP, is the tight end 17, Jim. That is insane value. That's crazy. He's routinely going outside the top 150 picks. So again, we're talking rounds, 9, 10, 11, 12. Some people have been so burned by Kyle Pitts, they're never going to draft Kyle Pitts. Doesn't matter if we get into round 17, they're not taking Kyle Pitts. I get it. But here's the question that I have. if we as the fantasy community, if we're excited about Michael Penix, we're excited about Drake London, who quietly had an incredible season last year. If we're excited about Michael Penix and Drake London, somebody's got to explain to me how we're not a little bit more excited about Kyle Pitts. Not tight end 17. Come on, man. That's just too much value. I'm just saying there's too much value. The dude's still making splash plays. Oh, by the way, Kyle Pitts averaged 12.8 yards per reception last year. Among tight ends with at least 40 targets, that was fourth best. So Pitts is still out there making the occasional unicorn play. I'm not saying take this guy with the top 10 tight end selection. That's not what I'm saying. No. But what I am saying is, if you are getting later in your draft and you have just said, you know what, man, there's a lot of tight ends that I like late that I'm just going to wait on this position. Kyle Pitts of that group, and that is where he is, of that group outside the top 12, Kyle Pitts to me has the highest upside. And again, I'm a guy that's going to chase upside. Go ahead and give me Kyle Pitts once we get into rounds 10, 11.
So I will just give a couple of questions just so you can kind of think this through as well. You're on them. I get it. Once this team went pass centric and they were giving Drake London 11.3 targets a game and actually 13 a game with Penix, we saw in the last 7 games, Kyle Pitts averaged 1.9 catches, 17 yards and a touchdown. His catch rate was 19th percentile. And I saw him drop a lot of easy passes. Concentration was an issue. What's going to be better for him based on that end of the season, low amount of volume and the concentration issues?
Well, I think from a drop perspective, drops and yards after catch are very volatile stats. And so I almost wonder if Kyle Pitts, who again has been pretty darn good about catching the football overall, let's see if he has a little bit of bounce back luck, a little bit more bounce back in terms of skill, luck, and concentration in regards to the drop. So that would probably be my one hope.
Sure.
The one thing I love about this pick too, Jim, is the fact that if it doesn't work out, I don't care.
Right. Little cost, very little cost.
I don't care. Like, I'll throw him back onto the waiver wire. I don't care. Like, I'll just go pick up another tight end and just stream that position. And that's what we do at this position anyways.
Right.
But man, if he hits, okay, now we're talking about something that could be a game changer from a fantasy perspective.
If he hits, we would call you the Sleeper King? Oh, wait, we already do. All right, everybody. Circa Million and Circa Survivor are back with a massive $21 million in guaranteed prizes. Circa Million, you pick 5 games against the spread each week, 18 weeks of action, 126 ways to win, $1 million for the winner, and $6 million guaranteed. Circa Survivor, 1 pick a week, no point spread. You last the longest to win it all, at least $15 million guaranteed. You enter in Nevada, you play from anywhere, $21 million over. Both contests guaranteed. Visit circasports.com for details. We are going next to Justice Hill. Justice Hill, 28 years old, going off the board around running back 59. 6 games with at least 11.5 PPR points. He spiked late in the season. Obviously, volatile role, but he had those spike weeks. He's a very reliable player. We know Coach John Harbaugh loves him.
Loves him.
Yeah, there's no question that's a real thing. James, talk about Justice Hill.
Look, this all depends on, again, Derrick Henry. He's 31 years old. He's coming off a 386 touch season. That's the 3rd most touches of his career. By the way, the 2 other times that he's top 370, by the way, the curse of 370 bit him. Right. So he saw a 30% reduction in yardage one year, and the other year he played 8 games. Right. So, or he missed 8 games. Well, it's either one of those. I'm not sure. Anyways, but bottom line is Derrick Henry, who himself is an absolute freakazoid alien, has also befallen to the curse of 370 2 other times. Does Father Time finally catch up to Derrick Henry? I'm not sure. I'm not going to bet against Derrick Henry. As we saw in the mock draft, we literally just took Derrick Henry, in that second round there. But if he does, Justice Hill is straight up free in drafts right now. Again, I'm not saying, I mean, it's a great best ball selection, by the way, is Justice Hill, but Justice Hill is straight up free. You said, what was he? RB 55, dog. Like, 59. Come on, bro. Like, he's
59.
59. Come on, man. Like, Yo, you're getting into the 15th, 16th round of your draft, and you're looking at Justice Hill. This is a player that legitimately has RB1 upside. Not RB1 overall, but I'm saying, like, if he gets on the field, he could be a top 12 running back because of his pass catching ability, right? Justice Hill caught 42 receptions last year versus Henry's 19. As you mentioned, Jim Harbaugh loves this guy. This is a player that can run and catch. He's averaging 4.9 yards per carry over his last 4 seasons. He averaged 4.9 yards per carry last season. And so, yeah, he's playing in a good to great offense. He's playing behind a good to great offensive line. Man, come on, man. Justice Hill's got some serious upside. I don't understand how he is going this late in drafts. That's all that I would like to point out, is that if you're just using a free square, why not use it on Justice Hill?
Now, I love the call on Justice Hill. One of my free square running backs is about running back 69, not 59, but he's on the same team. His name is Keaton Mitchell. Oh my gosh, James. Apparently, John Harbaugh has said back to his full speed. Keaton Mitchell said back to his full speed. Remember 2023, he was getting 8 to 10 touches a game. I know he's not getting 8 yards a carry. I said that about Devon Achane last year. He had a 7.8. I go, understand, that's not real. That's pinball numbers. Right. But that said, Keaton Mitchell is another player that in a change of pace role. So my question is this.
I like that too.
So, right. I like them both. I don't want Henry to miss time, but understand they're both there. James, we're going to take one quick question. Let's get this one quick, and then we're going to move on. Charlene asks, which 49ers would you pick up in order? I'm sure that means the receiving group between Jennings, Pearsall, and Ayuk. Rank them out and give a real quick hit as to why.
If I'm picking right now, I probably like Pierce. It's really hard to say because I just don't know where Brandon Ayuk is in his recovery. Right. If he goes on the pup and misses 6 games, then we can't draft him that high. Right. I really like Pearsall. I think he steps forward and has a really, really nice campaign. The one thing about Jennings right now, man, it's like he wants to get traded. He either wants a contract extension or he wants to get traded. He's definitely not going to get a contract extension, not with where the Niners are at financially. And the only other option is to trade him. But guess what? The Niners aren't going to trade him either because, man, they need this wide receiver to play for them, period, as Brandon Ayuk recovers. But that being said, once Ayuk comes back, what is Jennings' value? So I guess if I were to rank him, right this second, I would go Pearsall, Ayuk, and then Jennings because it's really hard. And I love Jennings. He's a chain mover, absolute tough guy, man. Like he's great for any offense. But if he's obviously not engaged and he's not that motivated either, and he's looking for a trade, hard to trust. And again, the upside's really limited because once Brandon Ayuk comes back, I think Jennings takes a tertiary role.
And I'll quickly add, Jawan Jennings is one heck of a blocker, and the 49ers use their receivers to block. It's a big deal for Christian McCaffrey. So we'll see where that goes. All right, everybody, thanks to our sponsor, Circa Million and Circa Survivor Contest. And thanks to everyone for listening. Come back next week for another edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast with the Sleeper King, James Koh.